right. Welcome to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies inspired it. And today on the show, we are talking about Greta Gerwig's Barbie, which was part of this crazy, amazing weekend of movies that we just had between Barbie and Oppenheimer, the Barbenheimer weekend. Of course, we just covered Oppenheimer with a live show. And now we're talking Barbie. And joining me, returning to the show, is Tara Giancaspro. And along with her, we also have, for the first time on the podcast, my wife, Gina Mizzoni. I'm so happy to have her on the show. We had a great conversation, the three of us. We get into a lot of really great puzzle pieces and had a really fun time talking about this really fun movie. Before we get into it, I do want to remind you, as always, to make sure you are subscribed to Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on social media at PiecingPod, and don't forget to join our Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, where we continue the conversation about all the movies we talk about here on the show. Also, I got to let you know that we do have a Patreon, the Produced by David Rosen Patreon, where I post bonus and advanced content from Piecing It Together, Awesome Movie Year, and from my music career. Lots of great stuff over there. So check it out. It's patreon.com/bydavidrosen if you want to support the show in that way. I do appreciate it. But of course, I'm also really just happy to have you out there listening. So let's get into our conversation about Barbie. All right, it's time to talk about Barbie, and joining me, we've got back on the podcast Tara Giancaspro and my wife, Gina Mizzoni. Tara, how's it going?
Hi, I'm very excited. I think you said this is Gina's first time, so this is a wonderful thing. Welcome. I'm excited. I'm worried I might have to play therapist a little bit, depending on any conflicting tastes in movies or who stole whose picks. But I feel ready. I'm a pretty demanding armchair therapist. I think I force that on people, whether they like it or not. So
Nice. Yeah, we can use it. It's this is a movie with wildly varying takes, although I have a feeling we all loved it. But Gina, introduce yourself to my listeners.
Hi, I'm Gina, and I played with Barbie. I was a Barbie-holic when I was a kid. I spent the 90s playing with Barbie in my bedroom and drawing little pictures and bringing my Barbie stories to life and keeping Ken out of the loop for the most part. And so, yeah, I was really excited about the Barbie movie, and I just couldn't resist being a guest on this episode.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to have you on this one, and I'm happy to have Tara back on the show. Last time we did Renfield, which Nicolas Cage, kind of Ken energy, I feel like, a little bit, you know?
10,000%
Yeah.
I would trust him with any of including Will Ferrell's role in this. Although, as Matt and I looked at each other and said at exactly the same time, this is exactly why you cast Will Ferrell.
Right. Yeah. He's like, he hasn't done anything good in a while, and he was so much fun in this role. It's like exactly the kind of just bumbling, ridiculous idiot at the top kind of role that you want from him, harkening back to Anchorman or something like that. But
yeah.
we should talk real quick, and then we'll get into puzzle pieces. Gina was just talking about her experience with Barbie. How about your experience with Barbie? Are you a Barbie fan growing up?
So I was born in 91, so Barbie was definitely happening during the 90s. I had many Barbies. I had at least one Teresa, which was great because, like brunette representation. I don't know what Teresa's thing is supposed to be. I was just pretending as a child that she was, a fellow Italo Jew. So that was Teresa's thing, when it wasn't like the Fran Fine Barbie that you could actually get a Jew. But I also had a lot of like hand-me-downs from my cousins, so I had played with the 90210 Barbies. I definitely had an earring magic Ken. I know, I screamed when I saw it in the movie. I was like, wait, I remember him. I had that.
There was Easter eggs galore in this movie, I imagine.
God.
Like, obviously, I wasn't a Barbie guy necessarily, but like, I could tell like, this is like Easter egg after Easter egg. And I know you were like recognizing things all over the place.
Yeah, they did an amazing job.
They did.
Yeah. And then they even just started throwing them in there, just like, boom, they would just fly out of the room and just like, hey, we're just going to show you some stuff now.
I was totally fine with that because they didn't really do like a fashion montage or something in the way that you would have expected. I would have assumed that there was a lot more attention paid to clothes, and you would have seen like the Clueless closet with, these revolving looks, or like Barbie through the years. And you did see some of like the classic black and white bathing suit, but I was kind of surprised at the lack of like a Bob Mackie sequence of looks.
Mm.
I was big on the Barbie computer games. I don't know if that was part of Gina's experience, but
No, I was a Sims girl.
got it. Yeah.
Very similar
had-
in tone, I
I
imagine.
had every Barbie computer game. I had the Barbie fashion designer, which you could print out the clothes and put them on a Barbie. So, like, let's say if there was
Oh
a
my
skirt,
God.
you could print it on a specific, very thin material, and then you could cut out the skirt and it would be along the measurements of a Barbie. I had the Barbie makeover one. I had the Barbie nail salon. I had Detective Barbie, which was so much fun. I had the Barbie like adventurer video game. I actually had all of the Barbie
Oh.
games. Yeah.
God, I wish I could go back in time and play Barbies with you.
I mean,
You have an
first of all,
enviable collection.
we don't have to go back in time. We can just roll up. Someone can
Oh,
send
that's
us a
true.
torrent of like Barbie Detective and we could get viruses on our computer but try to play this damn game together.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm down for it. Come on over.
Awesome.
This sounds like a great post-podcast activity for us all. But let's start getting into some puzzle pieces. Gina, it's your first time on the show. Let's start with you. What do you have for your first puzzle piece?
Well, I'm going to go with a really cheesy and obvious and probably not the most perfect piece, but I just can't resist here because of all the pink and the bubbly blonde who happens to be smart. I'm going to go with Elle Woods from Legally Blonde.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think in a lot of ways, until like this weekend, that's the closest there's been to like a Barbie movie. Is that like an accurate statement?
I mean, I think so. I actually did not have Legally Blonde on my list, which is surprising because my Barbie premiere look was inspired by Elle Woods, and I will make sure I send you both that, Gina. I think you'll love it if you love Legally Blonde.
Awesome.
It's very similar to a
Yes.
dress Elle wears, but yeah, in a way, I mean, it does sort of reflect the Barbie experience, Elle's experience.
Yes. And a girl, a woman being able to do whatever she wants. I mean, she goes to it's Harvard, right? And
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got
she's
into
able to,
Harvard
like-
Law. Yeah, it's Harvard.
yeah, like she realizes her dreams. And
Yeah.
she lives in this perfect world. Well, it's not a perfect world. Her world is more realistic than Barbie's world was, but she's able to, do the impossible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think like, we're going to jump around the movie, obviously, like we always do on this podcast, but like coming down like to the ending and like the main theme of it all, once it all like kind of comes together is like, being okay with who you are and what you can accomplish, which is basically anything if you find yourself and if you are, real with who you are. And that's like kind of like the big climax of the film. And that is such a big part of, the story there with Legally Blonde. So, yeah, I think that's a great one to kick it off with. Tara, let's go to your first piece.
Sure. This might steal one of yours. Sorry, I feel guilty about this. To me, very obviously, Josie and the Pussycats.
Nice.
Oh,
Have you
awesome.
both seen
You know what?
Josie?
I it's been a long time since I've watched it, but
Years ago.
I retract my statement. There are two potentially Barbie movies before this weekend because that would be another one right there.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that one, but that's perfect. I
Now
love
you two
it.
need to go watch it tonight. And it
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been
It
forever.
And it's awesome, too.
Yeah, first of all, if anyone here was like, oh, yes, you mentioned Josie. My friend Russ Burlingame put out an oral history of the making of the Josie and the Pussycats movie. So that's
Oh,
something
wow.
that if you really love the movie and didn't know that there was a book about the making of, they do interview a lot of the cast and they interview a lot of the folks at Archie Comics, which is just really, really great. And they interview Kay Hanley and a lot of the folks behind the soundtrack. But Josie to me was a very obvious choice because it was adapting an IP and
Mhm.
where Josie didn't have to at all acknowledge this being a corporate thing as opposed to just an original idea like someone writing Interstellar or whatever. They really, really made a great, great satire of consumerist economy and
Sure.
forced conformity from a capitalist
Yeah.
perspective. And I mean, Josie is musical. It's vibrant. It has a gorgeous aesthetic. There's some fun little cameos in Josie. The villain is very silly. You have Will Ferrell and you have Parker Posey and Alan Cumming. And it's hopeful and it's empowering. And every time I have watched Josie, which I watched it maybe a week ago, I just smile and I just sit there and I'm like, these girls are really special and they fight the man and they stay friends. And it's just a beautiful movie. I'm also obsessed with Josie, so I probably compare everything to Josie, negatively or positively. Like, I flew to Los Angeles in 2017 to go to the 15th anniversary Josie party at the Ace in
Wow.
Los Angeles. And I got to see Kay Hanley perform those songs, and I held several of my girlfriends around me, and we cried because we never thought we were gonna get to go to a Josie concert. But
Aw.
if folks at home have not seen Josie and the Pussycats, you're probably thinking, "Oh, this, like, 2000s movie, really?" Like, and it's girly and whatever, and, well, I would kind of hope those folks aren't listening to your podcast.
Yeah, I
You
hope so
Yeah.
you
too.
are
Yeah.
not the type who's like, "Ugh, girl movie, no thank you." I know that about you, David,
Mhm.
but Josie is such a biting commentary on capitalism. Everything is deliberately tiled with, the jet in the beginning has all the Target logos inside. There's a
Ads and all
there's a
everywhere.
hotel
Yeah.
bathroom that has, the McDonald's logo. And yeah, the movie got product placement, but to make fun of if not the product specifically, the way that products are used, the way that we are sold things constantly. I don't want to give away the big reveal of the movie, but it is all about capitalism and consumerism. And it doesn't, as much as Josie, like, there were toys sold, there were clothes sold, DVDs and tapes were sold. It still did the balance the right way. And I think Barbie did too. I
Mhm.
There were parts of me that wanted to go kinda buy Barbie stuff, and I bought a couple of little Barbie items, but
Mhm.
They got you a little bit, but
yeah, but I think that they hit a fine balance of allowing people to be nostalgic about this thing that they grew up with, like Gina and I growing up with Barbies, and not thinking as much about, "Oh, we have to be thin," but just, like, picturing us playing with our moms or getting a new Barbie toy at
Yeah.
Christmas. Like, I think we're allowed to have that. I think we're allowed to have that emotional
Yeah.
attachment. Um, and then, Greta very brilliantly tied it to larger things: mothers and daughters, aging, rejecting societal demand. Um, Josie to me feels similar. It was something where the original comic was, these girls in a band and sometimes they solve mysteries or go to space. And the movie made it about standing firm in your values and, choosing your friends over everything else that can come in your way, whether it's boys or business or just, the paths of life. But I
yeah.
really think that Greta did a brilliant job making this movie meaningful while still openly admitting that this is IP, Mattel was involved, this is going to be used to
Yeah.
sell things. She didn't
Yeah.
pretend, but she made something really beautiful anyway.
Exactly, and it's a hard thing to, when you're dealing with a character as famous as Barbie, it's a hard thing to, like, kinda get around, but, that's a good segue into my first puzzle piece, which, you guys both brought in, like, these classic female characters. I'm going with, like, a big explosion action
Ooh.
movie, epic kinda thing here, but, I'm going with The Matrix Resurrections for my first puzzle
Oh my
piece,
god.
which
Okay.
I don't know. I know Gina hasn't seen it. Have you watched this, Tara?
Which one is Matrix Resurrection? Is that the
This is the most
I
recent
have
one,
not that's the
2021.
one that, like, my, like, number 1 daddy, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II is in,
Yes, he
right?
plays Morpheus. So here's the thing. I don't wanna give away too much about, like, the overall plot of the movie since you guys haven't seen it, but essentially it is super, super meta. And this is all kind of on the surface here, but Warner
Yeah.
Brothers wants the creator of The Matrix to make a sequel in the
Okay.
movie The Matrix Resurrections, and Neo has to deal with that. And so the fact that Warner Brothers allowed the Wachowski sisters to make that movie and make fun of Warner Brothers and their drive for IP and sequels and, just milking things as much as they can. And then Warner Brothers allowed Greta Gerwig to joke around with the whole Mattel name this whole time and Warner Brothers and everything. I
Yeah.
really am shocked that this happened twice in a few years. It just seems like something you would never expect to happen. And so while they're both very, very different movies, the fact that they get that meta and that weird and that, like, mixing the real world with the world of the movies and of the IP, that's why I had to go with Matrix Resurrections for my first one.
I love that. Can I ask, I don't want to spoil who it is, if anything, but you said part of the movie is that they want the creator of they want the creator of The Matrix or the Matrix
So
films?
in the world of the Matrix Resurrections, the Matrix films, the 3 that we've all seen and love, well, we love the
Yes.
first one, not the second and third, but
Yes.
they are actually video games made by the real Neo when he was still in the real world. So if you remember, he's a coder in the first movie. So he went on to make video games called The Matrix, and they want him to make a sequel to the video game The Matrix, and then he starts kind of connecting with Neo, the character from the movies. And it's bizarre, and I can't believe they let them spend $200 million on that movie.
Are there 2 Keanus?
Kind of.
That's what I was.
It's all
That's
over
what I
the
was.
place.
I mean, yeah, I guess I would watch it, but that's what I was curious about. Like, who are they saying the creator of the Matrix IP in this is? But okay,
Yeah.
I'm interested by your kind of. So now I want to watch
Yeah,
it.
it's bizarre. I love it. Not everybody was in. But a lot of people thought like, "Oh, come on, it's just IP on top of IP on top of IP." It is just absolutely crazy and meta and weird and fun and awesome. And yeah, I totally recommend it. But
Okay.
Gina, let's go to your next piece.
Yes,
Okay,
please.
so I have Pinocchio
Oh, sure.
because it is a toy or a puppet, but a toy that wants to be a real boy, and he becomes a real boy at the end of the movie. And Barbie, she doesn't want to be a real human like in the very beginning of the movie, but by the end of the movie, she does want to, and she's already kind of becoming one by having these weird feelings, these depressed feelings.
Yeah,
And Ruth Handler, the creator of Barbie, would be the blue fairy.
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
That and it's her journey to wanting that, because yeah, she doesn't want it in the beginning. Like, there's no part of her that wants to be a human from the beginning of the story. But
Mhm.
the fact that by the end she is starting to accept those things that make people human, and so now she kind of wants to experience that herself. And I
Yes.
think it leads to like a perfect ending there.
And at the end of Pinocchio, of course, he says, "I'm here to see the gynecologist."
Yes, of
Just
course.
kidding,
That's
that didn't happen.
that's
but-
exactly how it
But that would have
ends.
been great.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Because I'm curious. This is a scene,
Uh-huh.
obviously, I've been thinking about a lot. When Barbie goes and sits at the bus stop and she sees Anne Roth, who's a famous costume
Oh,
designer who
yes.
did the Birdcage and she did the Talented Mr. Ripley, and she looks at this woman who is much older and says, "You are so beautiful." Why do you think Greta put that in? What did that say to you? I also, for the listeners, Warner Brothers wanted to remove this scene. They didn't feel like it had value, or maybe they thought it was going to affect the pacing, and Greta Gerwig fought to keep it in. So if it was something that meant a lot to you, thank Greta. But yeah, Gina, I would love to know what you think, and David, you too, like
Yeah.
what that said to you.
So when I watched that scene, it of course pulled at the heartstrings, and I just saw it as like she's saying that, a woman as she gets older, she becomes more beautiful. Like she becomes more real. She's you're still beautiful even when you're aging. It was kind of, but then I had actually read an article about that, and it said something like Greta was going for like basically the women who played with Barbie and they have fond memories of Barbie and they're getting older, and it was kind of like a shout out to them, something like that.
I think that makes
Basically.
sense. Yeah, I
Uh,
think both of
Yeah.
those things make sense. And then
yeah.
I would throw in another thing that kind of what I took from it, because in that scene, like she has just been witnessing all of the awfulness of the real world,
Mhm.
and in that moment, she's witnessing a small little glimpse of the beautifulness of the real
Yes,
world. And
yes.
so that was what I got out of that scene.
And you know what? Actually, that reminds me of a little puzzle piece. Actually, Hook, the movie Hook, Wendy, when she's older. That reminds me of
Oh, I
the
love
old Wendy.
that.
Yeah, I
Oh,
just
Gina,
thought of
you're
that when you brought it up.
yeah. Well, and the Pinocchio is perfect because it's these Disney type entities, but
Yeah.
oh, I love that. Your ideas have been so unexpected, but like obvious, not in a way it's like duh, but like I should have thought of these, and you're just like, oh, obviously
No.
Pinocchio, and I'm like, Yeah, I'm so fucking stupid. Obviously, Pinocchio. You're right, Gina. No, I'm like shocked that I didn't think of these, but you're picking up on the ones that, yeah, really feel like tenets of the movie. I'm very impressed, especially this being your first appearance. I'm like, shit, okay, all right, Gina. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying about Hook, because you do have a lot of films where women talk about aging or women talk about beauty, but the beauty of growing older isn't touched on, maybe in trite ways, and like in the book club movies, or these movies that are like, okay, we're gonna get Jane
Yeah.
Fonda and talk about being older, but it's not aging. They're already aged and they've let go of a lot of these
Yeah.
things. So yeah, you're right about Hook. I really love that
And
choice.
Barbie, in Barbie's world, there isn't any aging. I don't think there's any old Barbies. Are there?
No,
So maybe
probably
that
not.
could also be like she saw an older woman for the first time. She's
That's
like,
a really
wow,
good
you're
point.
beautiful.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that at all, but I love that. That's a really good
I think
point.
I had assumed, and I have a couple of ideas of what it could be, and it could very easily be a number of them, but
Mhm.
one was her sitting, and after she's freaking out about her cellulite and her flat feet, she's looking at this woman and going, "Oh, yeah, I think she's beautiful. Why don't I see myself as beautiful in my imperfections?" So in that way, I see it as a
Mhm.
Yeah.
catalyst moment that awakens her
Mm.
later desire to explore humanity more and more and more. Um, because I think that when we see her go inside and she's trying to access her human that's been playing with her, she does see things, and she sees aging over time. She sees Sasha go from being a little girl to being a teenager. So I thought in one way there's that. I also thought maybe it was, as much as women's beauty standards have always been around. Obviously, they've always been catered towards thinness and whiteness and being able-bodied and sort of Aryan. I
I was gonna
like
say
that this
waspy, like
Yes. I like that this older woman, and, and I'm guessing Anne Roth, she might be Jewish. She's a woman who's like, "Yeah, I know it." 'Cause that's the thing, it's not just like, "You're beautiful," and it's like, "Oh, no, I'm not." She says, "You're beautiful," and Anne Roth responds, "I know it." I'm wondering if she's saying that, like, "Hey, you young girls watching this movie, or you girls in your 20s and 30s even, y over time, you'll give less of a fuck about all of this.
yes.
And,
Mm.
hey, now this woman who has wrinkles and white hair and is hunched over, she's given up on caring what men will look at her for, or will a man check me out, or will a man be interested, or even will a woman be interested. I the Barbie saying, "You're beautiful," to me was Barbie's catalytic moment of realization, and then Anne Roth saying, "I know it," was, hey, like a message to the audience of like, "Listen, you're probably gonna get here. I hope you do. I hope that you,
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
time, give less of a shit and reject more and more of this demand." So I really loved that scene, and I'm still kind of not sure exactly what was being said. I just know that I loved it, and I
Yeah.
like the interpretations I took from it because they meant something to me, and they spoke to me.
Yes. I love your analysis.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think all around the table here, like, there's a lot of really interesting kind of points of view on it, and they all kinda tie together, like, really well, so
It's a powerful
it
movie.
really is. It
It
absolutely
is.
is. But let's go to another puzzle piece. Tara, what do you have next?
My next is Spice World.
Oh, awesome.
Gina, are we, like, similar in age?
I'm gonna be 40 in November.
Okay. Oh, so I thought you were close to my age. Okay, whatever the facial care routine is doing, it's doing. Keep doing it. Um, yeah,
Thanks.
so Spice World, have you both seen Spice World?
I have, and when I didn't think about that one originally, but when you brought up Josie and the Pussycats, I thought about Spice Girls, and that's, like,
Yeah.
perfect. I love it.
I actually don't think I ever saw Spice World.
Oh,
I
David,
know.
you have to see
I
Big
know.
cinematic blind
I
spot.
know.
it's
I know.
it's so good. The comparisons for me with Spice World are, you're taking something that is a money grab. We can all admit that it's a money grab. And they took this girl band, none of them were trained actors, and they made a movie. But instead of just making a nothing burger movie, they made something really interesting. It's extremely meta. You kind of discover the framing device later on where you're like, oh, it's catching up to it. Really fun, campy cameos. Meatloaf has a minor role as the bus driver, Dennis. So you're just like, oh,
Nice.
Meatloaf is here, and he's the bus driver. Um, Roger Moore is in it. George Wendt is in it. Like people that are not that they weren't casting David Hasselhoff, who would have been like a good '90s
Right.
casting pick. And it's also very British in that you have Richard E. Grant and Alan Cumming. So they didn't go American, which I mean, a lot of the girl bands and boy bands of the 90s were American. You had your Girls Aloud and what was it, like the Saturdays and all those bands in the UK and like BB Mac, but they could have gone American. Like the Spice Girls come to Los Angeles and it's like a Crocodile Dundee kind of story, but they didn't do that. They kept it in England and they really like had characters with British accents. It wasn't just, oh, everyone's American around you. But yeah, I mean, amazing movie, incredibly, incredibly meta, stupid, like very Christopher Guest inspired. Like it's not far off from Spinal Tap. It
Yeah.
really isn't.
Wow.
And it's just silly. There are moments where like they're standing in an office and there's a tense conversation and you just see rain start pouring down and it's sort of like an acknowledged thing that happens. To me, it's a perfect movie. Obviously, I grew up with it. I might have even seen it in theaters, but it really does fit the, "Hey, we're doing a cash grab, but we're elevating this so much." It's meta, it's campy, it revolves around women empowerment, revolves around being yourself because the Spice Girls have to decide, like, what's true to them? Do we want a break
Yeah.
from the touring? Do we not? Are we crashing towards a breakup, you know? And what is our future gonna look like? Are we gonna be these, like, moms who send their kids off to boarding school, and they have all these not real flash forwards, but just, like, little dream sequence moments,
Dreams.
and they're
Yeah.
really trying to find themselves, but it's truly David, I want you to text me, like, as you're watching this movie one day. It is so unexpected. I have not even given you like 5 of the cameos that I'm thinking about, where you're just like, "How did they get this person? Why did they get this person? Do the Spice Girls even know who this is? And also, like,
Good
why are
question. Yeah.
aliens here?" Literally, why are
Ooh.
aliens here is a great question when you're thinking about a Spice Girls movie, and I hope that the mention of aliens got anyone at home who is not, like,
Oh,
sold on this movie
you
yet.
sold
Like,
it.
"Oh."
Yeah, I'm watching this movie very soon, and by the way, cash grab, but elevated, definitely kinda ties it back to what they did with Matrix Resurrections. So, that
Okay,
that is another way that I would describe that. So, yeah,
great.
great one. I love that. Definitely looking forward to checking that out one of these days. I'm gonna go to one of my favorite movies of all time for my next puzzle piece, Wet Hot American Summer.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
Okay, yeah.
so the thing is with Ken's journey, uh, Ken is just this total kinda goof dork who is pushed to the side a little bit too much by Barbie and ends up getting radicalized, and I was thinking back to Michael Showalter in, Wet Hot American Summer, learning the new way from Gene, the chef, and, how he learns to be, like, this cool kinda douchebag with the hair and, like it only lasts for, like, one scene, and then boom, it's over with, and he's back to being a dork, but, that kind of, trajectory of him going from being a loser to being this thinks he's cool kind of loser still to being back to that reminded me so much of how Michael Showalter was in Hot American Summer. You could also point to a lot of like the very ridiculous, irreverent humor. Will Ferrell and his like CEO goons when they're like chasing after Barbie and like they can't get over the turnstile. That was very reminiscent of Ken Marino being chased by Joe Latrulio in the forest, and he can't jump over the one little bale of hay that's in the middle of the road.
Yes.
Very just ridiculous humor like that. Also with like the big, huge ensemble cast of hilarious people just getting to do just totally ridiculous things.
Totally.
You kind of also have that kind of connection to the way that these two movies were made.
And then of course you got Paul Rudd, who's like a total douchebag, like when Ken.
Paul Rudd is the best. And seriously, if Paul Rudd wasn't like stuck in Marvel land right now, he would be so good in this movie.
Oh, he would have been an excellent Ken, whether primary Ken or one of the other Kens.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have loved to see him in here. But yeah, let's go on to another piece. Gina, what do you got next?
Okay, so I've got Mafia Mama.
Oh my god.
We are big Mafia Mama fans
I
in this
still haven't
household.
seen it yet. I want to.
Oh, I don't want to ruin it for you.
You can ruin it for me. It's fine.
Shit. Well, basically, it doesn't have that traditional happily ever after. The protagonist goes off into the sunset with the man and lives happily ever after. Like, she doesn't need a man.
Mhm.
She is happy, like, by herself, and I love that. And like,
Into it.
yeah,
That's
and
great.
that's Barbie. Barbie did not need Ken. Barbie,
Yeah.
Barbie goes to the gynecologist.
That's it. Barbie just gets this new experience. She gets to live her new experience, and that's basically her ending for the film. And that's great. I love that. Two movies that definitely kind of have a non-Hollywood traditional ending in that way. So I love that. And yeah, I definitely recommend Mafia Mama. Critics hated it, but I think you'll like it, Tara. We loved it.
Oh,
It's
it's
such a great
something.
movie.
Yeah, Matt and I will definitely be watching that one at some point.
Everyone, Mafia Mama, watch it. Tara, what do you have for your next piece?
You're gonna like scream and pass out, but Gremlins 2.
Gremlins 2. So we actually just watched Gremlins on our vacation. I haven't seen Gremlins 2 since I was a kid, but I feel like I know exactly where you're coming from because I've heard just how insane that movie is and how like meta and weird it
Yeah,
is.
like you're talking about gross out moments and Mafia Mama, and I'm like, I have goddamn Gremlins 2, like which is, obviously these gross out moments of gremlins and blenders and they're getting water on them and these disgusting little baby gremlins pop off their backs. But my friend Mike Duquette writes a blog called Hollywood and Spine, and it's all about movie novelizations. And I happened to read one of his about Gremlins 2, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, what is this movie? I had seen the first Gremlins. I know the story. I love Phoebe Cates. As I say, I'm a red-blooded American man. What other choice do I have? But, I mean, everybody, straight, gay, whatever the hell, loves Phoebe Cates.
Oh yeah.
I think it's the only part of Drop Dead Fred that we can all agree on is like Phoebe Cates, bangs
Oh,
be
yeah.
thangin', But Kevin Kline is one lucky son of a bitch. But anyway, so I was like, okay, I know the first Gremlins. And it kind of makes sense. It's not like a crazy concept. It's like, okay, these little guys come around. You could say E.T. is the same thing. Oh, there's a little guy and he's nice and people are trying to find him, whatever. Gremlins 2, bonkers. The novelization seems bonkers. They both, the novel does it in a different way than the movie, but they both get interrupted halfway through the movie and there is a meta fourth wall break to the audience. In the movie, it is done by a massive, massive, massive celebrity, one who is not aged well, but you're like, oh, it's that guy. Okay, yeah, he's talking to us and like telling us about what's going on here. In the book, apparently, the gremlins tie up the author, and there's a brainy gremlin, and he is the one addressing the audience or the reader, talking about the gremlins' ethos and like political and social value structure. And the writer of the novel is tied up in the corner while the gremlins are wreaking havoc on his office. And that's how they chose to do
amazing.
it in the book. In the movie, they chose to do it with this big celebrity cameo.
I'm just such a sucker for meta stuff like
It's
that. Like I just think it's so great.
fun. The movie is really fun. There is a Trump type character. Like it's mostly set in this one building, which is like Trump Tower. There are all these different businesses inside. Something very interesting is that the fake Trump, I think his last name is Clamp in the movie. It's yeah, I think it's Clamp. So it's it's similar, but he's actually quite nice, and he's just sort of surrounded by jerks. Like the people around him are henchmen, but he's not really a villain. He actually wants to like pay attention to specific employees and shout out good work that people are doing. And he's like,
Hmm.
I don't like that we're doing this. He is selling things like in the way that Trump has stakes in the Trump University. They do have
Yeah.
jam. That's one of the things they mentioned. They're like, our boss has a number of real estate portfolios, blah, 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 and a popular line of jams and jellies. And you're just like, oh,
Nice.
okay. And I don't know if they needed to reach out to Trump to get his approval to do something like this, or they filmed part of it in Trump Tower. From what I've heard, if Trump allows you to film a movie on one of his properties, he has to be offered some kind of role in it. Like,
That
like a
that
walk-on,
tracks.
like
Yeah.
in his Home Alone cameo. But
Yeah.
Gremlins 2, extremely meta, extremely chaotic. In plot, no, there's not much similarity to Barbie except that you're like rooting for your little friend. But
Since you brought this
Yes.
up, I'm gonna say I wasn't gonna officially bring up this puzzle piece, but I guess I will now. The January 6th insurrection, like the Ken dolls, all the Ken
Yes.
dolls, like reminded me totally of the January 6th.
yeah, oh, I
attack on the
think that
Capitol.
was as Matt said when we were watching this, a Pensurrection. Yeah, I think that
Yeah,
was
oh, I
very
love
Oh,
that.
that was-
I want a
Pensurrection.
T-shirt. I want a
Yeah,
T-shirt
that's
right now.
great.
in the Barbie font. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think that was deliberate. I think they very smartly didn't fully go there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
So
yeah.
a lot of the tenets of masculinity, our audience really loved. Like I could tell, like horses and the Sylvester Stallone fur coats, I thought was really
Sure.
funny. I got very excited when I saw my, as I always say, my biological mother is Fran Drescher, but my biological father is
Oh.
John Travolta. So they had the one little second of Grease Lightning, and I was like, this is my
Yes.
movie. Like I was so excited. But yeah, they picked these really fun choices for what being a man is or what being the patriarchy is about. And
Yes.
they all, patriarchy starts to infect Barbie land. But they didn't do anything too violent. I think that knowing that we're watching this movie, and they knew who was going to be coming to see this movie. They knew it was a more
Yeah.
liberal audience. They knew it was a lot of women and a lot of people who identify as feminists. They probably did not want to trigger us, number one. With,
Yes.
like,
yes.
I don't need to see it. I don't need to see Ryan Gosling in that, like there was that
The
one
war
guy who was
theme,
dressed in like the Native American
the
war bonnet.
buffalo. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like we don't need to. I don't need to see that. I don't want to see Ryan Gosling like that.
Although the fur thing he was wearing did remind me of
The
that.
fur was a little bit like it.
It kind of
but-
reminded me of that
Yes.
guy.
Yeah, I think they didn't want to go too far down that like rabbit hole because like, not that they care because they could do whatever they want, but I think, the anti-man claims were going to happen no matter what.
course.
But like, why feed it too much? You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think if they went too far down that path, it would have maybe it would have been overboard.
Yeah,
But on a more positive
Yeah.
thing that Tara said, Tara, wouldn't you say that you could see that movie becoming a musical?
yeah. I mean, there
Yeah.
weren't as many like let's say in-house songs. You had I'm Just
Mhm.
Ken, you had Push, and you had Lizzo's song, which was sort of acknowledging things that were happening in the movie. The first time, no, and then the second time she wakes up and there are these little meta like, "Ooh, girl, like your breath stinks," like that kind of thing. Yeah, I think that Warner Brothers probably would not have allowed, Mattel would not have allowed a really full like insurrection type moment where it was getting
Yeah.
too political.
Yeah.
Because, hi, we don't want our offices blown up. Hi, we don't
Yeah.
want a much bigger boycott. Like, hi, we do want
Yeah,
people to come see
yeah.
this. There were a number of reasons, but I think they let a smart viewer fill in the blank,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
a good way to do storytelling. There was a lot about this movie
Yeah.
that wasn't subtle, whether it was the
Yeah.
color and the visual, that was not subtle, but then
Yes.
also the messages we were receiving. Because you have to
Yes.
navigate a balance between addressing you and I in our 30s and 40s, and also
Mhm.
talking to the 12-year-old girl that was brought to this movie, or even the
Yes.
6-year-old girl who saw this movie. You really needed to kind of hit everybody.
Yeah.
I think they did a good job with that, but you know, there's something to reward a smart viewer who can just make the connection without it being like, and we're calling it the Kensurrection in the movie. You know,
But I'll still take
Yeah.
that T-shirt.
But the movie in general, I could totally see it becoming a musical.
I think so too.
Like,
Yeah, I think they
the
could
set
expand
design
it. The
and-
set design, the dance numbers, like
Yeah,
all
I think that
stuff.
would be so awesome if they turned it into a musical. Like, there's a Legally Blonde musical.
yes,
isn't
there
there?
is. Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So anything's possible
This would
with
be
stuff like
fun.
that.
Or they might even take this movie and, you know, decide to make a musical, the Barbie musical, but they might tell a different story.
Yeah.
You know, they might now, seeing that Barbie is becoming popular again because of this movie, they might say, oh, you know what, let's tell a different story, but get a really meta and creative team to come in and tell something fresh and exciting. Yeah, I'd be open to seeing it. Obviously, if you told me this movie is being made into a musical, I'd say, of course, you know, I live in New York. I will be seated. I would be excited to see who they cast. Also, something I would love to ask you too about is like who you wish was also in this
Well, I
movie.
mean, I already said Paul Rudd. He would be so great in this.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be instead of either. It could just be like, who do you wish they had found?
Matthew McConaughey.
That he would be awesome, especially with
Yes. Oh,
especially
yeah.
with Beach. You know, like that could be like the ultimate beach guy for Ken to
Yes.
meet in the real world. He could have like gotten to the beach and been like, oh, I'm not needed here because Matthew McConaughey is already there.
And then Beyonce.
Oh,
Beyonce.
would be
I
a
mean,
great
come
cameo.
on.
Yeah,
Oh, God, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, like that
absolutely.
could have been a fun 3-second cameo with like President Barbie, and it's like Beyonce as the Secretary of Labor or something, and
Yes.
you're like, oh, okay, this is perfect.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
that.
I would have loved
absolutely.
that too.
Well, I'll go to another puzzle piece. I'm actually going to combine a couple
Yeah.
because they're similar in tone. I'm going Anchorman and Zoolander. You know, with Anchorman, I mean, of course, you've got Will Ferrell, but you've got like once we get to the real world, we're finding out about all these like ridiculous guys that are just men that fail their way upwards, and they're all just like, you know, idiots and ridiculous, but in these positions of power, and all the women are just, you know, subservient to them and everything. And of course, that's what Ken sees and is like, oh wow, this is something. But but then also with Zoolander, all the Kens are basically just like Derek Zoolander's buddies, his roommates, his male model roommates, like when they're going out for gas and you know, the mocha frappuccino. What is the line? I know you love that line.
Orange mocha frappuccino.
That's the Kens right there. So yeah, so you get a little bit of both of those two things. And speaking of which, Ben Stiller 10 years ago, he would probably be in this movie. That's another cameo that would have worked.
Yeah, I would say he has the Kenergy, if you will.
Yes. Absolutely. So yeah, just those combined with my last puzzle piece of Wet Hot American Summer. I mean, you could see why I like this movie. It's like right down my irreverent comedy point of view, you know.
Totally.
Tara, who would you have casted in this film?
Yeah, my number one, and I thought Michael Cera was great, so it's not like I wouldn't have wanted him in this, but if they were casting someone else for Alan, I would have said my number one boy, Skylar Gisondo. Skylar Gisondo is in The Righteous Gemstones. He was in Booksmart.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
The son.
He was in Santa Clarita Diet, which
yes.
is how I learned about him. The two kids from Santa Clarita Diet, you have Skylar Gisondo and you have Liv Hewson. Liv Hewson is now on Yellow Jackets. They are an incredible actor. I love them. And you have Skylar, who is so funny. He was in Licorice Pizza. A lot of I see it a lot on Twitter, but his little screen cap of him going beyond, you know, like on the plane. He's excellent. He absolutely has the stupid Kenergy needed. There's a big thing right now where people will
He totally looks like.
Yeah. I had said he could have been Midge. I was like, honestly, they did not use Emerald Fennell very much at all. I was like, put a wig on that man.
Yes.
He would have chewed the plastic scenery.
Yes.
I know he would have. Him and Michael Cera honestly would have been like a cute little pair. I'm into it. But yeah, Skylar Gazanto, there's a new trend on Twitter now where people just post the same picture of him and they're like, this guy would blah, blah, blah. So one of my recent favorites was,
Yes.
this guy would, if he was a waiter, he would be approaching the table and putting the check in front of the baby every time. Like in the way of like, oh, guess who's getting the bill? And like everybody would love it and tip him 30%. Like he's just got this like sweet, dumb energy. Apparently he's seen these tweets and he really loves
Yes.
them, but he's very much that type. I can think about people where like 15 years ago it would have made sense just based on what they were doing. So like you said, Ben Stiller, 100%. Owen Wilson, 100% could have done this.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Now he should have been one of the like Will Ferrell's henchmen. Like I think he could have worked perfectly in there. Justin Theroux, who wrote Zoolander, I think would have
Oh,
been
yeah.
Love
great in this.
Love him.
Paul Rudd, obviously. Steve Carell, obviously, to me,
Sure.
could have done something really stupid with this. In terms of women, I don't know if there were any women where I was like, oh, I really wish that this person had been in it. It seems weird that they didn't get Taylor Swift at all to be on the soundtrack or to be in the movie. Kind of
Yeah.
surprised, especially because Haim is on the soundtrack and Taylor Swift and Haim are very good friends.
Sure.
That was kind of surprising, but they might have been like, oh, this is almost too big. And then with Margot being the stereotypical Barbie, they might have actually just wanted to avoid more blondes.
Could be. Yeah, that's a very good possibility. Yeah.
Since you brought up Righteous Gemstones, which is like
Yes.
it's one of our favorite shows ever.
Oh, yeah.
What about if Ruth Handler, a younger Ruth Handler, would have been played by Edie Patterson?
Edie Patterson is the absolute best. She can do anything. So
Edie's amazing. My friend Jason, I'm gonna put him on blast right now. My friend Jason's like number one crush in this life is Edie Patterson. So every time I hear about Edie, I think of Jason. She's so funny. It's amazing that she has not been like doing everything that Amy Schumer has gotten cast in over the last few. Like, you look at it and you're like, she should be doing
Yeah.
all of this stuff, and she should have been on like 5 TV shows by now. Like it's really amazing how lived in she is as an actor. When we have not seen her in as much. Adam Devine could have totally been in this movie very easily.
Oh, yeah.
I think Danny McBride could have been in this. I don't know where it
Yeah.
Just do the
fit.
whole Righteous Gemstones family.
Yeah, that's fine with me. You could get Jennifer Nettles to do something on the soundtrack. And then who was I just going to
Yes.
say who would have been? I was just thinking about someone. I think another HBO person who would have been perfect. But there are a lot of people who have the Kenergy. It really comes down to like who's got that Kenergy and who you feel like would
It
get
does.
the wink wink of it. But
Yeah. I think the female cast is like kind of perfect, and that's why we're like all thinking of just like all these other guys that could have been brought in as extra Kens. So
Oh, Ken Marino.
Ken Marino, come on, of
Oh,
course,
yeah.
the
But
best,
David, Ken Marino.
the best. He's a
Oh
Ken
my
already.
God.
He's literally Ken.
He's literally a Ken.
Do you two watch the other two?
Yes. So we haven't watched the
Oh,
new
It's on
season
yeah.
yet.
Max.
We watched the first season of it, loved it.
Oh my God. There is I'm just going to say this because it still kills me. There is a play in this new season, and it's 8 Gay Men with AIDS. That's the name of the play. I'm not really spoiling anything.
Okay.
And it becomes this like set piece for the episode. And like an ex of mine that I am in touch with was working on the show, and he was like, do you want any props from the show? They're like getting rid of everything. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I was like, and one of the things he sent me, because he was just sending me ridiculous stuff in like photos, was the 8 Gay Men with AIDS poster.
Oh, that's
And I was like,
amazing.
watch, this is going to be the most important thing of the scene, but like, where am I going to put this? I was like, it's probably going to be super important because of course you sent it to me and it's stupid. And it turns out to be like the best episode. I think it's the one that got Emmy nominated. Like so I was like, of course I turned down the most important, most iconic prop I could have turned down from the show. But
Amazing.
yeah, if you guys at home don't watch the other two, Ken Marino is a masterpiece.
He's the best.
Every single little stupid
Yeah.
line and face he does on that show is a goddamn masterpiece. But yeah, Ken
Absolutely.
Marino has the Kenergy.
Did you watch Flaming Love? Wasn't that incredible? Flaming
Uh,
Love.
Bur-
Yeah.
Burning Love.
Yeah.
Burning
Is that-
Love.
Wait, ain't got time for love. Ain't got time for you. That gets stuck in my head all the time. I have a part of my newsletter that's called Intrusive Thoughts with Tara, where it's just those little things that get stuck in your head. And I have a list running, and that's one of them.
Hell
So,
yeah.
yes,
Awesome.
I've seen Burning Love. This is a
Amazing.
big June Diane Raphael standing household. So, yes,
hell
I
yeah.
have.
Hell yeah. Let's do one more puzzle piece each, and then we'll wrap it
All
up.
right.
Gina, what do you got
Mine's
next?
a really quick one. It's J-Lo. J-Lo, dozens of boyfriends and husbands that couldn't handle being with a successful, powerful woman.
Oh, all right.
And that's Barbie right there with Ken.
That is Barbie and her Kens. Absolutely. I love that. That's awesome. And J-Lo having a moment the last few years. I mean, ever since Hustlers, I mean, she is like bigger than ever right now. So, I mean, for sure.
And there's a lot of women in Hollywood that are in the entertainment industry that are like J-Lo that have had that experience where they just, I mean, I know now she's back with Ben Affleck, but they have a history of just not having the best relationships because the men just can't handle having a woman that's more successful than them.
Yeah.
Living in that line, you know what I mean? The shadow of them. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben Affleck seems to be perfectly happy with it, though. What do you have next, Tara?
My last puzzle piece is Toy Story 2. Number one, you're dealing with toys. Intellectual property, business, great. But there is that scene where you have Jessie, the cowgirl, and she's, being played with by her human, and then she gets neglected for new toys. And it's one of the saddest things you'll ever watch in your life. And it's, it's this beautiful song playing over it. And as much as the Barbie montage where Barbie sees humans and humanity, and it's all clips that Greta was sent by different crew and cast members on the project. It's not sad. It's a beautiful thing. It's just, I feel like I don't get a lot of those beautiful cinematic moments of being a woman in some way, good or bad. You can get like schmaltzy, like, oh, like me and my sisters and that kind of thing. But yeah, and again, it's toys, and there is that abandonment that Barbie feels by Sasha when Sasha tells her off and makes her cry, and then that's tied to the abandonment that America Ferrera's character feels when her daughter pushes her away, and and she's growing up, and so Toy Story 2 made sense for me as one, and then I don't know, like the sisterhood of the traveling pants. There's one more for you. Clothes and togetherness and America Ferrera.
Yes.
She's in both.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. She is. Yeah. So, absolutely.
She was so great in Barbie. I
Yeah.
loved her.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. She was so good. And by the way, speaking of the music in Toy Story 2, this household here has been singing Push just nonstop for like the last 3 days.
We've also been calling our dog Ken and our 3 girl cats Barbie.
Like, are you saying like, hi Barbie, when they walk in the room?
Yeah. I'll be like, can you please get Ken to stop barking? Or is Ken begging for snacks again? Or, oh, hi Barbie. Hi Barbie. And hi Barbie.
Yeah,
And
because we have 3 cats, so there's 3.
Or oh, look at Barbie bathing in the sunlight over there. Like, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
We had a lot of hi Barbies when I went to see it. People just walking past each other. Hi
Yes.
Barbie. Hi Barbie.
Yeah.
We had a big pop, as Matt would say, because pop is like the wrestling term. When America Ferrera gave her big speech, our audience was just like, yes, like that famous moment of Meryl Streep and Jennifer Lopez like cheering at the Oscars. It was that. That was a big pop. So yeah, everyone in our audience loved America Ferrera. So you guys saw it at the movie theater. Did you have any fun like reactions from the audience? Like, what were the big popular moments? The BBC Pride and Prejudice mention for us, the girls in our crowd went crazy.
I think the ending, like the gynecologist, was probably the biggest laugh. But I mean, there was all like it was
throughout the movie.
It was
everyone
a pretty
was
wild,
laughing, and I mean, we were laughing, and I like throughout the whole movie. And the guy next to us, I think he was getting annoyed with how much we were laughing.
That dude, I think, thought this was very anti-man. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I had a feeling like I got this sense that he shouldn't have actually been at that movie, but whatever.
Probably. But I will say Gina's outfit got a lot of response on the walk in and out of the movie.
What did you wear?
I wore a fuchsia hot pink wig and then little red heart sunglasses and then like a magenta wig, a magenta-y outfit,
Oh, cute. Okay.
and like silver glittery heels.
David,
was
send me a photo. You have my number.
I will do
And
that.
I
then
wanna see.
Dave had his Jew fro.
Yeah, but I had
it
a
was
blonde June fro.
Yeah,
a
it was a
Jew fro.
blonde one.
So.
So for Ken.
Wait, you were blonde?
Yeah, I had a wig. It was the last.
Oh.
The last. I wanted a more Ken-like wig, but it was the last blonde
all
wig
the
available.
trad Ken wigs were sold
No,
out at Party
no.
City.
Yeah, Party
Had to go
City
with what I could.
probably like those employees were probably like smoking cigarettes when you came inside. Like, I never want to think about Barbie
Another
again.
one.
Yeah.
This
Did
fucking
you dress
movie.
up for it too?
Yes, I did. So I did a
Oh yeah, you said you
very-
were a blonde.
Yeah, I didn't do a wig. I was like, I'm gonna be a brunette Barbie. Too damn bad. But I did
Nice.
have a pink sequin dress that looks very much like one of the Legally Blonde outfits. I honestly had like 10 options. And now I wear black, off black, and metallic black. Like that's about all I wear. So I was buying things because I was like, my birthday was yesterday, the 22nd.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
So Barbie was part of my birthday weekend. So I was like, oh, well,
Aw.
if I'm doing this for my birthday, I gotta look good. So I had a couple of
Yeah.
outfits, but I like the one that I wound up wearing. And I got Barbie earrings. They were like little hearts with little crystals and then big heart hoops. And it's Barbie in the Barbie script. And I got a little cheap pack of Barbie rings from Aldo. Like one has the Barbie script writing, one is a big pink diamond heart. So I had
Aw.
little accessory moments too, but yeah.
I'll
I
just
love
say
it.
real quick before I go on to my final piece and we wrap it up. This movie as well as Oppenheimer, Barbenheimer weekend, we had a huge box office weekend. People should be dressing up for the movies more often. It was just such a fun weekend at the movies.
You don't need to tell my ass. I dress up for everything. If folks after this go look at my Instagram, you're like, oh, she wears themed outfits to concerts. And I'm like, yeah, I do. Life is short. I always say I want to be Isadora Duncan without the scarves. I want to be that very flamboyant person, like strolling
I love
around
it.
in caftans, like a slutty Mrs. Roper. I want to be wearing ridiculous leather nonsense to metal concerts. Like, it's fun to dress up. If you want to do that, if you want to do it with your friends, if you want to do it with yourself and find people who are like you, dress up. Life is short. Don't worry if people are looking at you. Maybe they're looking at you and admiring you, and that's why they're staring at you. So wear what you want and dress up and make it fun.
There you
Yeah,
go.
well, hopefully someday we can do that with you in person.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Oh, 1,000%. We'll coordinate just to like go to
Yes.
brunch. We'll pick a theme. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Yes.
Let's do it. Let's do it. My last puzzle piece, speaking of ridiculousness and costumes and all that stuff, I'm going with Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar.
Oh, so
from 2021.
good. Yes.
Yeah, you never saw that,
No, I
did
have
you?
not.
This came out like right after the pandemic,
Oh, that's
and
great.
like it stars Kristen Wiig and Annie Mamello,
Yes.
and it's just this bizarre, ridiculous, very like irreverent, weird, beach-based comedy, and everything just is cranked up to like 11. Like just the nonsense, the costumes, the cameos, the characters. It's just so silly. And also, I could have swore Kate McKinnon was in it. She's so funny here as Weird Barbie.
She's great.
Like, she would have been at home in this movie, like that same kind of humor that she is,
Yeah.
And it's totally ridiculous beginning to end, and we should watch it one of these days.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I saw something on Twitter. I'm not sure if it's true, but or if that's the choice behind it. But when you see Kate McKinnon in the beginning, she looks like a Barbie that has been played with. Like she's got streaks in her hair, and the dress is like a weird dress that looks like maybe a kid made it. And then when the patriarchy invades, she all of a sudden has this militaristic look. And someone on Twitter had the opinion that, oh, that's what someone who isn't sexualized or isn't catering towards a male gaze would be envisioned as by these men, like a militaristic lesbian.
Yes.
Mhm.
So all of a
Yeah.
sudden
Yeah.
she's got like
A
the
feminazi.
yeah, like
say.
yes, exactly. Like she's got the strap of bullets across her shoulder. Like she all of a sudden turned into this sort of 80s looking like what is that movie? The what you call it? The Billie Jean movie. David, I know you know what I'm talking about. The Legend of Billie Jean.
I think that sounds right, but
It's
I'm
that
really not
look,
sure.
Like the
Yeah.
like instead of it just being like, oh, we're wearing t-shirts and jeans to fight, it's like, oh, we've got these like leather zip up cat suits and bright crazy colors. But yeah,
Nice.
so I thought that was a fun possible costuming decision that they made.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I think that does it for Barbie. We got a lot of like stuff in there through all these puzzle pieces. I mean, I'll just read down the list real quick. We talked about Legally Blonde, Josie and the Pussycats, The Matrix Resurrections, Pinocchio and Hook, Spice World, Mafia Mama, Gremlins 2, The January 6th Insurrection, Anchorman, Zoolander, J-Lo herself, Toy Story 2, The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and Barb and Mar Go to Vista Del Mar. Yeah, just a lot of comedy, a lot of just really kind of crazy stuff like throughout these puzzle pieces, I got to say.
Also, Gina Dornan has the Kenergy in Barb and Star.
Oh, for sure. Jamie Dornan would be another one who would fit in this movie.
And you wouldn't expect, because you see him in like the Fall, that BBC show with Gillian Anderson. Like, he does dark stuff. Even 50 Shades is darker. He was so goddamn. He absolutely is like prototypical Ken in Barb and Star.
He's so funny in that. Yeah, I don't know. I think we got into a lot of good stuff here. I think that's a really good place to wrap it up. Tara, tell people where they can find you.
Hi, guys. So I am Sweaty Lamarr, like Hetty Lamarr, on Instagram and Twitter. If you are my family members, please don't go on Twitter. That's where I'm unhinged. I have music out, which is streaming everywhere, and also sweatylamarrmusic.bandcamp.com. The thing I've been doing right now that I'm really, really passionate about is I started a Substack. It is XOXO Gossip Giancaspro. So it's taragiancaspro.substack.com. David, I sincerely hope you were typing this out for people in the episode notes, because, you know, my last name is like vowels galore.
I'm a professional, don't worry.
But yeah, I've been doing a Substack where I talk about pop culture. I write some personal essays. I basically do what I've been doing here, which is being loud and annoying about things that I love and that get me excited. A lot of stupid little, like there's something where I've been including my favorite blooper reels from movies.
Nice.
The most specific niche shit ever. But yeah, the Substack is free to subscribe. If you don't know what Substack is, it's a blog that gets sent to your email inbox. So it's basically like a newsletter in a blog style format. Sometimes it's a short post, sometimes it's a longer post. But yeah, it's free. And it's really been something that has gotten me excited about writing again after a long time away. So
that's great. I'm looking forward to checking it out. I always love following you on Twitter. And yeah, I'm going to definitely get subscribed to that. Gina, your first time on the show. Tell people where they can find you.
Well, you can find me on Instagram, Gina Mizzoni, Gina, and then M as in Mary, I, Z as in zebra, Z as in zebra, O, N as in Nancy, I. That's where I'm the most active. I also have my Gina Mizzoni photography Instagram. So, yeah.
Yeah. Everybody check out Gina on Instagram, and I'm so glad you were finally on the show. And Tara, I'm glad we got you back on the show. And yeah, thanks so much for being here, guys.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Wax Trax Records here on 2909 South Decatur. We buy all your old 45s, your old albums, any type of music memorabilia. Also, we sell music memorabilia, albums, CDs, and a lot. Come on down to Wax Trax, 2909 South Decatur, or give me a call at 702-362-4300. Thank you very much.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that conversation about Barbie. Thanks to Tara for joining me on that one, and thanks to Gina for finally joining me on an episode of Piecing It Together. Hopefully we'll get her back again sometime soon. And thank you to all of you for being out there listening. If you're enjoying Piecing It Together, make sure you are subscribed wherever you listen to podcasts. And of course, if you really like the show, rate and review us 5 stars. It helps make sure the show gets seen by new people, getting more listeners, and then we'll get to do more awesome stuff with this podcast. So thank you for being out there. You can also follow us on social media at Piecing Pod and join our Facebook group Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces. And I told you about the Patreon at the top of the show, so I'm not going to go back into that again, but I am going to close this out with a piece of music like I always do. And during the episode, we did mention about our 3 girls here in the house, the 3 cats that we say hi Barbie to constantly, and of course our dog Harvey, who's a Ken now and barked through half the episode. But yeah, I'm gonna play a song from the Pup Pups album, about one of the girls. This is a song called Sink Cat about Trudy. And yeah, the album just came out a couple weeks ago. We got some music videos on the way. It is a ridiculous, silly album of songs about our pets. And I hope you enjoy it. This is Sink Cat. We'll be back with more Piecing It Together real soon.
Sink cat, sink cat, sink cat, sink cat. Sitting on the sofa, sitting on the stairs, sitting on the floor or sitting over there, sitting on the box, sitting on the table, sitting anywhere that little cat is able, sitting on the bed or sitting on my head, sitting even when her daddy just said that she shouldn't sit there, but she just gives me a wink. And you know her favorite place to sit is the sink, 'cause she's a sink cat. Sink cat. Sink cat. Sink cat. Sitting in the kitchen, sitting in the hall, sitting on a box or sitting on a ball, sitting right in front of the TV, sitting anywhere that little cat she please. You be sitting on the bed or sitting on my head, sitting even when her daddy just said that she shouldn't sit there, but she just gives me a wink. And you know that her favorite place to sit is the sink, 'cause she's a sink cat. Sink cat. What you doing, little sink cat? Sink cat. Sink cat. That cat is sitting in the sink. Sink cat. Sink cat. What you doing, little sink cat? Sink cat. Sink cat. Well, look at that sink cat.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.